Get ready for full tilt pro bass action. Winning tips and techniques. Inside info and tournament strategies to make you a better bass angler. Big fish, hot sticks, and serious money on the line. This is the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Invitational Bass Tour. Brought to you by Columbia Sportswear, Triton Boats, and Mercury Marine. Now, let's let her rip. The mighty and magnificent Mississippi River, source of legend and lore, commerce and trade. Here in the southeastern corner of Minnesota, the beautiful bluff country widens to accommodate the sprawling waters of Lake Pepin. Winding for more than 50 miles between Red Wing and Wabasha, and stretching up to 3 miles from bank to bank, Lake Pepin drinks in waters from dozens of inlets and tributaries, hundreds of miles of shoreline, scores of islands and backwaters, and all are fair game for anglers in the inaugural event of the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Bass Tour. The season is pre-spawn for both largemouth and smallmouth bass. The largemouth are big, averaging over 2 pounds with the possibility of numbers of 4 and 5 pounders and larger. The smallie population has boomed in the past decade, with vast schools of feisty brown bass competing for spawning territory.
These would be wonderful.
Both species are on the move this time of year, migrating into spawning areas and in search of the warming water which attracts bait fish. Temperature will play a major role in locating active fish. To make things even more complex, both lake and river environments are present, demanding a much greater range of options for presentation techniques.
I'm going to stick with the Carolina rig pattern, probably switch it up with the Senko.
Husky jerk with just a constant jerk and a nice pause in between.
Culprit 3-inch flipping tube.
Baby brush pig, and it's a custom color I had done. It's chartreuse and pumpkin laminate.
Just flipping tubes up real slow drop speed.
In this one-day tournament format, anglers will have to decide on an aggressive run-and-gun strategy or camp on a hotspot, working more slowly to connect with the largest fish in the school.
I'm probably going to be running and gunning. I'll have 3 or 4 major spots that hopefully I can they'll produce some fish for me and run from there and just make a milk run out of each one.
Now, here comes the big curveball. Thanks to heavy rains up north, the water levels rose to flood stage almost overnight, sending a minefield of debris downstream and muddying up the whole shooting match. For most guys, that meant almost everything they learned in pre-fishing was literally washed away. They'd have to start from scratch to find biters.
The winning bag could be right under that bridge. Let's hope not.
Largemouths should be located predominantly in shallow black bottom waters which warm quickly in spring. Look for anglers to be working 1 to 3 foot depths, throwing small single blade spinner baits, and working subtle light plastic finesse rigs.
Well, I'm really hoping to find a school of largemouth in a little mud bay like this. I think that's what'll win the tournament.
Smallies should be congregating along rocky humps and shorelines at 3 to 5 foot depths, either moving along current breaks or cruising windswept shoals in anticipation of passing bait fish. Anglers will probably be pitching minnow-shaped jerk baits and working the rocks with rattle jigs and plastics. The strategy then to kick off this year's Gander Mountain Tour? Get a limit of smallies in the box, then go for the gold with a couple of lunker largemouth to help tip the scales.
That beautiful? I mean, he's a horse. That one there for the river, I think is pretty good.
Let's see how it all pans out on the mighty Mississippi for the first round of the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Bass Tour. Pre-fishing. This crucial stage can make or break a tournament angler's performance, and ultimately his paycheck.
The thing you have to deal with in the spring is you have to predict where they're going to be in 2 days. And that's basically what I'm trying to do, is figure out where they are now and where I think they're going to go and adapt from that.
I mean, whenever you're practicing and trying to find fish, you want to cover a lot of water. I'm just running the Northland Reed Runner spinnerbait here right along the edge of these dead reeds. And I'm hoping to just get just a little bit of something, you know, just a bite, just so they tell me what's going on. Kind of looking for the pattern, you know, it's pretty basic.
I'm fishing this riprap here, and the sun is hitting this right now, so it's warming up relatively fast. And where I'd like to fish for some largemouth, the sun's got to be a little higher in the sky, and it's a little bit more shaded, so I'm going to go there a little bit later, hoping for a bite in the afternoon and a bite in the morning on the riprap.
Yeah, it's a nice thing about pre-fishing. It's basically eliminating water. You know, but what's really strange about this is that can change at any given moment. You know, I mean, you may come by and not catch a fish, and come back a couple hours later and they can be stacked in there. You know, I mean, that's that mystery of this river that always just keeps me coming back, I guess. You know.
The goal? Find active fish, establish a pattern, and then leave them alone until tourney day, when you hope they'll still be there.
The day before the tournament's not when you want to catch them. Can't tell you the amount of guys that told me over the years, well, yeah, I had about 30 pounds today. I said, well, why'd you catch them all today? Like that one I shouldn't have caught. I do believe I have found me a school of smallmouths. I give them 2 pounds, 10 ounces. That'll put you a little bit over 20 pounds. I think if you can catch this kind of fish, 8 of those, put them in the box, I think you'll be cashing a pretty serious check.
What I'm really looking for in this high water conditions is areas where I can fish the hard bank. It's really tough to find them in places when you get really high water like this in the river. So what I'm trying to do is find areas where I can cast directly to the bank.
In this single-day tournament format, the pro and the amateur are working as a team to produce the heaviest collective 8-fish stringer. Consequently, the professional angler is likely to share his entire bag of tricks with his partner, presenting a terrific learning opportunity for amateur fishermen.
Being a weekend angler like I am, I don't get on the water half as much as he does. And he can brainstorm and come up with ideas that I would never thought of. It's an advantage having a pro in the boat. He can use his tackle, he can pick his brain for some ideas.
Not only on location and technique, but also on strategies for scoping out a body of water.
Well, last night we were looking on the map, and we're trying to find a spot that has a back to the backwater, where the water hasn't went so far that we can't get into it. And if you can see here, it's stopped. There's a bank right here, and there's not so tremendous amount of current. We're hoping some of the largemouth have moved from where they were up into something like this, because otherwise we can't get to them.
Lake Pepin is huge. Running long distances and negotiating the locks take precious time away from actual fishing.
Lake Pepin is a pretty big body of water, and if that wind kicks up in the middle of the day, and it'll make it very, very difficult to get back.
I guess that's something you have to adapt to when you tournament fish. It's Mother Nature, many different ways.
Well, you just never know. You can pull up on a little spot like this and catch yourself 3, 4 decent fish and be right in the game, you know. And that's the interesting thing. I've never won a tournament on the river, and I've won them on just about every lake that we've ever had one on, but I just can't seem to get it together on the river. And I think it's got to do with the fish move so much. You got to move with them, and that's what pre-fishing's all about, is trying to find them and then stay with them.
You have a body of water yay big, and you have 5 fish in that body of water, and rises 5 feet. The fish spread out. It's really hard to pinpoint. You're gonna have to move around a lot, keep the trolling more on high, and pound the shoreline, and use reaction baits. Use a lot of faster baits just to find a couple fish here and there.
I think it's going to take a combination of largemouth, smallmouth, and it's going to take about 20 pounds to win, I believe.
Decisions. But now it's time to put up or shut up. The cards have been dealt, and it's time for these Mississippi gamblers to make their play. Fishing springtime bass in a river environment calls for special tactics, especially when the water is high and moving fast. Here's Gander Mountain's Mike Curry.
It's not because you need to use different baits, but you need to match the baits to the conditions. Fast-moving rivers kick up more sediment, which means low visibility. That calls for brighter colors and larger profile baits than you normally be reaching for in springtime. Rushing water creates more noise. You need larger, louder rattle baits and spinner baits with bigger blades and more vibration. Plus you have to consider current. So let's do a quick river rundown. If you're fishing rattle jigs, go to loud, heavy jig head for the current, but stay with a short plastic shape like a grubber or two. With spinner baits, try a heavy single blade with large thumping blade, but thin out the skirt or replace it with a short plastic body. If you're fishing minnow baits, go with a larger, brightly colored suspending model. If they rattle, even better. And if you're fishing deep, tie up a Carolina rig with oversized beads for more noise, but stay with a relatively small, springtime-sized plastic body. As in any fishing situation, it's just a matter of attracting and triggering more fish.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, he's a horse. That one there for the river, I think is pretty good.
When it comes to river fishing, you have to work a little harder.
And that's just what these guys will be doing. Stick around. We'll be back with all the tournament action from Lake Pepin right after this. T-minus 30 minutes and counting. Early morning is calm and clear, so the long run across Lake Pepin will be a smooth one. But will the fish cooperate?
Yeah, somebody will find them. They always do.
Will the game plan hold together?
Some of the bass will be up on the bank, hopefully starting to spawn with the 62, 63 water degree temperature and come up empty or load the live well. So take those gambles sometimes.
We'll find out soon enough, because this is it. Countdown to blast off.
All right, we're boat 40. All right, I got 640. We got a 25-mile run here, so nice to have a stocking hat on.
Try to make all the trees float in the water.
As anglers get down to business, Jeremy Keel scores early, producing good fish on the main lake flats.
Part of the deal here with this flat is in the shallow water, the water is not as dirty as what we would hope to be. And with the sun, the last 3 days it's been just glass out here. And these fish would bite till about 10 o'clock and then they'd shut down and you couldn't get them to go the rest of the day. I don't know if they disappeared or if they just stopped feeding. So last night I just hoped and hoped and hoped we had a little bit of wind, and this is just about perfect.
Tucked back in a secluded bay, Brian Krause has been on some decent bass during pre-fishing, but not today.
Oh, it's a sheepy.
Sheepshead won't put any money in his pocket. Meanwhile, just 100 yards away and in plain view of Krause, veteran Ted Capra is pulling in some big smallies. So what's up with Ted's side of the bay? Why is Capra's spot holding fish while Krause's bass have scattered?
You know, if you know the area, there's some rock areas where there's a ledge. And all we're doing is we're just letting that tube just kind of fall down, throw it up on the high water, and bring it off so she drops on the rocks. And that's what's been working. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, he's a horse. That one there for the river, I think is pretty good.
Betting that the high water has pushed fish back into calmer waters, quite a few teams elect to work the docks and channels of Lake Pepin's many harbors and marinas, providing front row action for spectators. As Dean Capra discovers, the fish are in there, but they're little guys.
I could probably sit in here all day and catch a limit, but I don't think it'll be big enough to win, so I'm going to just pluck a couple more, hopefully, and then move on and go look for some bigger fish. I know there is some big ones, but they're a lot harder to catch, and they're a lot farther and fewer in between, so that's the plan.
No tourney winners here. Time to move. Downstream, John Graham does connect with a bigger fish, but as Dean said, it was slow in coming.
Now are the decision times. Whether we stay here where we know there's some fish, but it's going to take a while to hammer out a limit, or go for broke, one-day tournament, see what we can do.
Graham decides to boogie, and his move pays off. In numbers, but not in size.
Well, more promising than it was about 20 minutes ago. Not big fish, but we'll take whatever we can get.
Elsewhere, James Linner and his amateur partner John Seymour are putting on a clinic, pulling numbers of good fish off a craggy riprap bank.
Water being so high, I really didn't find that many fish in practice. So what my theory was to come and camp on this sort of riprap bank. After a couple of one pass down here, I think I had like 3 or 4 fish in practice. Came back this morning and John's caught a couple of nice ones. Usually when the water gets really tough like this, the real key in any tournament is simply to get a limit of fish, and you're going to be in the game somewhat. Get a couple of big bites and to get in the game really fast. Number 8. I like that.
Just behind the Linner team, anglers are having some success working crankbaits over midstream shoals and current breaks, but it's spotty at best. All the while, Howie Lee has stuck to his guns, working a Carolina rig on the Main Lake Flats.
The first 6 came quick and fast, and then it died out, so we're just trying to pick up the rest of them, and if we can get 10 and weigh our best 8, I'll be real happy.
His patience has been rewarded. He's closing in on his limit. Time is becoming critical. Big water, an overwhelming number of options, and the rising, debris-filled Mississippi have made this one a real headbanger. Docks, channels, flats, and backwaters have all produced, but no single spot has given up a consistent big fish bite.
I got one too.
Brian Krause and his partner finally score, but the clock is ticking. Other boats are already heading back for the 3 p.m. weigh-in. Is Krause's effort too little, too late? Weigh-in, Red Wings Colville Park, and anxious anglers line up for the verdict. Al Erdelin is one of the first to step up with a good bag of bass.
8 fish are all alive. Good job.
Yeah, all alive.
1920.
His impressive 19.2 pounds will move him into the top slot. Ted Capra's 4.15 pound smallie turns out to be big fish of the tournament, but he's 1 fish short with a 7 fish bag that tips the scales at 17.34 pounds. Good for second place so far.
That one you didn't get's the one that's going to hurt you. Come on over here, Teddy.
Next, James Linner takes the stage with his riprap smallies.
What you got, Garrett? 1806, good bag.
18.06, enough to take over the number 2 spot, but not for long. Dean Capra's 18.85 pound bag bumps Linner down to 3rd.
You gonna like it? 1885. 1885, you're gonna be in there.
Towards the end of the day, it was like 1:30, and I only had 6 fish, and I went to what I thought was a small fish spot and actually caught a couple of decent fish right at the end of the day that kind of pulled it out. 19 pounds is pretty good on the river, and I'm pretty satisfied with what I did. I think the practice worked well, and I'm looking forward to another tournament down here now that I know how to catch them.
Waiting in the wings, Howie Lee anticipates a pretty good showing. No real big fish, but a limit of good ones.
Got 8. You know, I think
All
I got
right.
probably 18
How are you
pounds, somewhere in
coming
that area. So hopefully maybe more. I don't know. I'm a little light, but
Sausage
there's some
feeling.
good ones. You know,
Okay.
so we'll see.
You gonna like it? Oh, you're
Lee's 19.26 ekes him into first place by just 6/100ths of a pound. But Howie's lead is a brief one. Jim Smith is the first angler to bring in an 8 fish limit of largemouth.
all largemouth. You've been in it, ain't you? Yep. Way back in Neverman's land. Did your amateur partner have any idea where he was? Nope. Do you think he could ever get back there? Nope. All right. He's saying yeah? Okay. Okay, what do you got, Gary? 1927. 1927. You got
19.27, just 100th of a pound heavier than Lee's bag. But is it enough? Pat Martin and his amateur partner Brad Seward have been working the rocks all day long, and they've done well.
You got 20 pounds in there?
Sure.
You think so or you know so?
I don't know.
All right, Pat Martin on the scale. Gonna weigh a big fish too. 2086. 2086 now.
Their fat bag of smallies cracks the elusive 20-pound mark for first place and all the marbles. How did they do it? We'll be back with Martin's winning strategy right after this. Teamwork was the key for Martin and Seward. Let's find out how they put the winning pattern together.
What we were doing is fishing sandbars with a current break on them. And our primary lure was a chrome rattle and wrap. And what we throw this to imitate the shad that live down here. What Brad would do is follow up behind me with a spinnerbait. What he would do first when we got on these schools and they were hot and they were really active and we saw a bunch of fish coming in after the one that was hooked, is he would just burn this spinnerbait as fast as he could over the top and get these hot fish to go. After the fish slow down, he's using a half-ounce spinnerbait, and we get it, slow roll it down off the sandbars and let it drop off that drop, and that's when them fish would hit on the spinnerbait. Because this is a no-call tournament, what we'd have to do is let our fish go right back into school after we had some nice ones, and they'd kind of slow down. And after that, we'd try to finesse them with a Berkeley Power rub. And we just swim this along the sandbars really slow, and we picked up a couple extra fish that helped our limit out today.
Proof positive that patience, persistence, and a solid game plan adds up to success, even on a tough bite. Congratulations, Pat and Brad, on a job well done. Tune in next week when anglers duke it out on northern Minnesota's legendary whitefish chain. Until then, we'd like to thank the following sponsors: Columbia Sportswear, Triton Boats, Mercury Marine, Shimano, Friendly Chevrolet, Holiday Station Stores, Garmin, and Vexilar. Additional support provided by
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, he's a horse.
I got one too.